Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning.
We are learning Mishnah Yeshabbos, Perek Yud, chapter 10, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. I dedicate this morning's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shalamis Rabinowitz, L'zeicha Nishmas Shalamis Bas Rav Yaakov Eliezer. Okay. Right. This next Mishnah again continues with the laws regarding transferring on Shabbos, carrying out into the street on Shabbos, as we kind of refer to it. But here it says like this: Hamatzniya lezera or ledugma lerefua. We're talking about seeds, and a person sets aside a very small amount of seed, either for the purpose of planting it, or for the purpose of showing it as a sample to a customer, or for some kind of medicinal purpose. Now, if you recall, in the previous Mishnah, we said that seeds that you use for planting, the minimum amount to be significant for our haitzah is almost the volume of a dried fig. Now we're talking about, and that's the use of seeds by most people. And that's what's going to determine its significance. That's the general rule. What most people put away to use, that is considered significant. At the same time, we have a halacha, which we did learn previously, that if a person does their own thing, that they take something and even put away a small amount, because they have a purpose even for this small amount, which is this case. He's setting aside the seed, one seed, let's say, right, which is smaller than a typical amount for planting. He puts aside one seed for the purpose of planting, or he wants to use it as a sample for something, or for medicinal purpose. So again, using a much smaller amount, you're talking about a much smaller amount than before. But again, that person is putting this amount away because they have a personal use for it. And then the person carried it out on Shabbos. He transferred it on Shabbos, let's say from a private domain to a public domain. That is the word haitzah, taking out, means from in to out. That means private domain to public domain. That's one form of this malacha, and then you have public domain into a private domain. But the word that's used typically for this malacha is haitzah, which again literally means taking out. So he took it out on Shabbos. Chayav b'chol shehu. That person is going to be liable for whatever insignificant amount is taken out. Because being that he stored it away and he considered significant, for him is considered significant. And anybody else will only be liable for its standard minimum amount. Somebody else who has no purpose for this one little seed, for whatever it is, that person would only be liable for a haitzah on Shabbos if he takes out the amount, the standard amount, which is the amount that most people would put away for usage, which in the case of seeds is slightly less than the volume of a dried fig. Now, the obvious question here is that we learned this already. As I mentioned before, the Mishnah already said before, if you yourself put away a smaller amount, you're liable if you carry it on Shabbos, and no one else is. So why is it being repeated here? So the Bartanura explains that it means like this. This person, let's say, took a seed and he put it away for medicinal purposes. Mm-hmm. And then he basically forgot what he put the seed aside for. And he carried it from the private domain to the public domain, just kind of random. So he's not doing it for the purpose of why he put it away. And he doesn't even remember the purpose that he put it away for. But it was that amount that he had put it away before for a specific purpose that he's now transferring, that he's now taking outside now without any specific intent. The Mishnah is teaching us that in that case, although you forgot what your purpose was, nonetheless, at one time you considered it significant and you haven't changed your mind from that part. You just have forgotten about it. And when you're transferring it out right now, you have no specific purpose. You're just randomly taking it out. But previously you had considered it significant and you haven't changed your mind about it. It still retains its significance. And you're carrying something based on what your previous intent was. Your previous intent was that it was significant to you. So therefore, it's still considered significant to you, even though you've forgotten the purpose of why you put it away.
Is this a specific item?
Yes, yes. This specific item that you set aside for a specific purpose, that's the smaller than the usual minimum amount. You forgot, there it is. Like, what did I do this here for? I don't know. And then you just carry it outside. Since you originally you considered it significant, it still retains its significance, and you're going to be liable. Another thing is that, the Mishna says, which is really relevant to before also, it says the person was matzniya. He stored away this small amount of seed. It's not only if you store it away that you then kind of give it its significance, even though it's smaller than usual. Let's say you took this thing, and again, this small thing, your plan is to use for medicinal purposes. You didn't put it away for that, but you transferred it for that. Okay, you picked it up and you moved it over to a certain place for that purpose. That's also how you deem it significant, to be liable for Shabbos. It's not just because you store it away. If you transfer it for that purpose, which I believe, whether it's before Shabbos or after Shabbos, that will also give it significance, and therefore you'll be considered liable for carrying it on Shabbos. But then the Mishnah says, Chazar v'chnisai. Let's say he changed his mind and he then brought it back in. So let's clarify the case. This person had a small amount of seed. He set it aside originally for medicinal purposes. He then went out and he carried it outside. What's the halacha? He's chayiv. He gave it significance. He has desecrated Shabbos. For him, this is called carrying outside on Shabbos. Now, after he did that, he said to himself, I'm not using it for medicinal purposes anymore. Changed his mind. I'm not using it for that. And then he goes from the private domain to the public domain. Is he now liable for the malacha, for transferring it now from the private domain to the public domain when it's only one little seed? Says the Mishnah, Chazav v'chnisa, if he changed his mind, then brought it back, Eino chayav ela k'shiyurei, will only be liable according to its standard minimum size. If you just forgot what you set it aside for, it still retains significance. But when you change your mind, then I read right, you change your mind, you're not using it for this anymore. So now it reverts back to the regular, halacha. You follow what most people would put it aside for, and this is too small. It has no significance. You basically took away the significance of it for you. Now, therefore, it has to follow, the standard significance. And therefore, although for just before when you took it from the private domain to the public domain and it still had significance, you now transgressed, transferring. If you change your mind that you're not going to use it for this use anymore, you took away significance, and now you brought it back in, which is another act of going from outside to in, you're not going to be liable. Because before it had significance, and now it lost its significance. And the truth is, as is pointed out, it doesn't have to be that he changed his mind after he took it outside. Even if, let's say, he never moved it, but he changed his mind. He said, he changed his mind. He decided he's not using this anymore for medicinal purposes. That itself already is going to take off the significance and reverts back to the minimum amount for seeds to be liable for carrying on Shabbos. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. And good Shabbos.